Dearest Margaret, I did so enjoy the passing glance you gave me on the bus these 3 days past, as if I was barely a thought in your mind. It left me overwhelmed with the impression that, perhaps, you might take interest in my newest business pursuit, Stylish Sam's Studly Suds for Women. Indeed, over the following days, months, and perhaps years, I shall send you letter after letter seeking your interest and perhaps your payment to acquire such a product. I do so hope you will make a purchase decision shortly. Most sincerely, Samuel. P.S. Circle here if you would like to unsubscribe from these letters. Something inside of you hated that, right? And not just because of my terrible accent. I mean, it's really bad, and I'm sorry. But sometimes, doesn't email marketing make you feel just like this? You're sending email after email to people you don't know without getting any real interest or sales. Well, the bad news is that's probably because you're doing email marketing wrong. The good news is that email has one of the highest returns on investment of any marketing channel out there. In fact, it's still true after 20 years that for every dollar a marketer spends on email, they average $40 in return. That's a better result than the next closest channel by almost double. So to help you experience returns on par with that normal 40-to-1 ratio, here are the top email marketing tips of this year. The first element to look at is your subject line. It's the front line of offense for any good email campaign, and if your recipients aren't even opening the emails you send, then you're just wasting time. So let's look at a few things that are working right now to get people opening those emails. The first thing I want to talk about is emoji. This is still underused by most companies, but nonetheless, readers love emoji because it creates this quick and easy emotional connection. And according to some extensive testing that's been performed by ReturnPath, emails with emoji experience up to 8% higher open rates just by adding them in the subject line. But before you dive into the emoji pool full force, keep in mind that the ReturnPath study, and really any other testing I've seen on this subject, relies so heavily on your target market. If you're writing to a bunch of attorneys, no offense to my attorney friends out there, yeah, a little bit of offense probably, then don't expect a lot of responses when you send something like this. Your target is just a bit too straight-laced to respond to that. Also, keep in mind that even though emoji is widely loved, there are still some email providers that don't support it. So if your target is mostly using AOL, for instance, then you should probably just forget it. I mean, they're gonna end up looking like wingbats. Final thing on emojis, guys, try not to overdo it. They're fun, but man, when you start adding them in after every line, it is so hard for some people to understand, and you're just gonna lose their attention. The next effective subject line technique is personalization. Even simply adding the recipient's name in there can have an incredible effect on your open rate. And that's because simply we like it when you call us by our names. I mean, everybody does, don't you? Hey, Becca. Hey, John. What's up, Brandon? It feels good, right? Well, guess what? It gets our attention in an email subject line for the exact same reason. So just try to make it feel like you're talking to your buddy. Another thing to consider is your length. In general, you want your entire subject line to be visible when the user sees your email, which means that shorter is probably better. In fact, Campaign Monitor did a study on this, and the optimal length was actually 41 characters long, which coincidentally is the exact same length that an iPhone can handle when you're holding it vertically. There are a few platforms with less room than that, but you have to play with the platforms people are most likely to be using, and anything iPhone and above is usually a smart bet. The final subject line trend that's working well is using your pre-header. The pre-header is the text below the subject line that appears in your inbox. It acts sort of like a subheader. If someone isn't convinced to click using your subject line, the pre-header might just help them to reach their final decision. In fact, let me make this perfectly clear. Use it. Use your pre-header. Use it. So many businesses ignore the email pre-header, but it's almost a guarantee you'll read it before you open an email. And that's because you want to know what to expect when you do open it. Yes, it's true that most email senders will automatically fill in the pre-header information for you, but that's not always a good thing. Let's look at an email example to see exactly why that is. Okay, so you might think that the text would start with the headline there, right? Well, actually, most marketing emails sent today have what's known as a mirror link at the top. That link contains text and it'll be the first thing your pre-header displays. So to avoid that, if you don't want to add any special text, you can just copy the text from the email and paste it into the pre-header field. Good to go. Guys, That was just subject lines. Still a lot of things to go. Stick with me, it's all good stuff, I promise. The second trend is email design. For a long time, emails were like mini web pages in your inbox. There were crazy amounts of images and links all over the place, and it was impossible to hide the fact that your emails were intended to get someone to buy from you right now. Well, understandably, people got pretty tired of that after a while, and then when email introduced the promo tab, your open rates were all but guaranteed to tank because your emails were just getting funneled into a different folder that users never even looked at. I mean, do you look at the promo tab? I don't. So here's where we are now. Simple email design. No more flashy looking emails. The idea is to slide into your customers' emails looking less like the big corporation down the street and more like a friend who just wants to have a chat. Your friends are never writing emails with tons of images and links all over the place, so you shouldn't write like that when you're trying to sell someone. What that means from a practical standpoint is that you should never have more than 2 links and 2 images in your emails. Any more and Google will identify your email as a promotion or worse, as spam. It also means that you need to reduce the amount of code going into your emails. A lot of modern email builders pre-fill too much HTML and CSS code, which makes marketing emails much easier to identify and file away in the spam folder or the promotions tab. In fact, as much as you can, write plain text emails. The closer you can get to an everyday email, the better. All right, and on the subject of the email body, let's talk about my third point, the content. Your email's content needs to be engaging enough to keep the buyers on the hook until they decide to click on a link to the site. And if we've learned anything over the history of humanity about the most engaging content, do you know what it is? People love stories. So the easiest way to engage readers and convert them to site visitors is storytelling. Find a hook and keep them reading paragraph after paragraph. It should go without saying, but you want your readers to associate the story that they're reading with the brand or product that you're trying to sell to them. Now, does that mean you need to end your story with a marketing push? Not always. In fact, in the beginning, you need to take the time to butter up users with the quality of your content before you think about asking for anything in return. The more people trust the content coming from your emails is genuine, the more likely they are to continue to open them, and the higher the likelihood that when you do ask for something in return, people will jump at the chance. All right, so point number 4 is a big one, avoiding spam filters. This is always a huge question. How can you avoid spam filters when the rules are getting stricter every year? Well, as with so many other things, it really comes down to a bit of humanity. If you're sending too much to too many people or with reckless abandon, you'll get caught in these filters and success will turn to failure. So let's look at 4 things to help you avoid this issue. First, you should value quality over sales drives. Just like with any other marketing funnel, the advertising you're doing over email needs to feel beneficial to the recipient. If you're simply asking for a purchase with every single email, you're guaranteed to get more people marking your emails as spam, which is the absolute easiest way to get into the spam folder. It's so easy, in fact, that you should consider a spam complaints rate of 1% to be astronomical. Gmail takes notice of that really quickly, and you'll be sent into oblivion before you even know it. Sticking with the content, there are some words and phrases that trigger spam filters by simply mentioning them. I'll link an article in the description with an incredibly comprehensive list of them, but just understand that you need to avoid words and phrases that just sound too good to be true or that are easily identified as marketing or promotional. For instance, when was the last time you used 80% off in an email to a friend? Never. Dear bro, I just wanted to tell you about this rad new surfer tee I just got from surfers.tees. They're selling them right now for 80% off. Check it out, broheim. It doesn't happen. You're never gonna send that. And Gmail knows it. So avoid words like free or phrases like great deal, and your inbox placement rate will thank you. You should also think about your sending velocity. How often are you sending emails to your recipients? If you're constantly emailing readers, you'll wear them out faster and they'll turn from excited or interested to annoyed by your campaigns. This could result in higher spam complaints, but worse is that your readers will just stop opening your emails. And since email providers are always closely watching the opening rates of emails like these, the lower the open rate, the more likely you'll end up going down spam alley. In fact, when it comes to the number of emails you're sending, less is usually more. It means higher open rates, higher click-throughs, and a lower likelihood of being marked as spam. It's currently about right to send mass emails a maximum of about once a week. And my final point on avoiding spam is to segment your list. This is still a highly effective technique because it involves sending more or less to people based on how they've reacted in the past. So here's how I typically set this up. Let's say you started sending a weekly email 3 weeks ago, and you're just about to send the 4th installment out, but before you do send that out, you should analyze which of your contacts opened any of the last 3 emails. For anyone who has, you can put them in a bucket of openers. For anybody who hasn't, bucket them as non-openers. From this point forward, you need to keep an automation going that's automatically bucketing people based on these parameters after every single send. I'd give it about 48 hours after. You can send weekly to your openers as you were already doing, but for non-openers, you should decrease the frequency and increase the value of those emails. If you're already getting low open rates, then you should send to non-openers as infrequently as once a month. Otherwise, once every other week is okay to start, but just be careful. All right, all that heavy talk about spam leads me to my 5th point of the video, winning back or scrubbing your contacts. There comes a certain point in your email campaigns where you'll have a buildup of people who haven't interacted with your emails, bought your products, or really shown any interest in your brand for a long, long time. But you don't actually want those people hanging around in your contacts list if they aren't doing anything, because they could actually be costing you money. Most email providers charge you based on how many contacts you have in your system. So if you have a lot of people that don't interact with your content, then removing them could drop you down a tier and start saving you more money basically now. Okay, so how do you do that? We'll use an automation to win back the contact or scrub them out. Basically, it goes like this. Your automation triggers when someone hasn't, for instance, opened any emails in the last 3 months or over your last 10 sends, whichever is longer. The first step is to try to win them back. So you send them a series of 2 or 3 emails that argue really compelling reasons that they should want to re-engage with you. Maybe that's highlighting one of your product's best features or giving away some sort of new ebook that you might have. In any case, after each email, you want to analyze whether the contact has opened the email. If they haven't, then they're sent the next email. And if they reach the end of the sequence and they still have never opened an email, then you can very likely delete that contact without worrying about any consequences or losing valuable data. An added benefit to integrating this sort of scrubbing policy is that you can avoid spam traps. Email providers like to find out if you're practicing bad email policy, and one of the ways that they do this is by using old email addresses that were once active but haven't been used in a long time and looking at the emails that come to that inbox. So if you're regularly sending to multiple spam traps, you're very likely to be caught out, and that's gonna hurt your deliverability. Okay, we'll end this update on a fun note, automations. I love automations, guys. So let's say you sent out 10 or so campaigns and you've more or less been able to determine what your audience responds best to. It's now time to put a sequence together for new signups to receive right after they register. And all you have to do for this is just play the hits. Take the best emails from your campaigns and put them into the sequence. Start with value-giving emails, things that aren't making a big ask, and after a few of those, where you're maybe not even asking for anything at all, then you can start easing in the offer. So in a 5-email sequence, you should probably have the last 2 emails being offers directly to your customer, asking them to make a purchase decision. Just like with the win-back automation we talked about a minute ago, you should be analyzing your customers' actions after every step. But what's different here is you can use the automation to determine if the user made a buying decision, and if they did, then you can stop with this pitch sequence. In fact, you should make sure that you stop with the pitch sequence at that point, because you're just gonna annoy people and make them feel like a number and not a person that you've been having a conversation with. But that doesn't mean you're done automating. No, you can add those users into cross-sell automations, move them through your life cycle stages, move them in and out of lists, sort them, tag them, target them. There's so much you can do. Think of automations like the best way, really, for you to read and understand and sort your contacts so that you can get as much out of them as you need, while they can also get a whole bunch out of you at the same time. You don't want to be marketing directly to people who don't care, and you want them to make sure that they're getting as much out of you while you can target them appropriately as well. So there you have it. That's a huge number of updates to the state of email today. There's so many more out there, but try these out and let me know in the comments if you've tried them out and how that's gone for you. All right, and that's it for me. I will catch you next time.